Hi, I'm Pat. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's been a couple of months, I think, since I have posted a YouTube. And I had been doing some floss tubes of cross stitch. I kind of lost my cross stitch mojo. I got distracted with other activities and life. So I've done some thinking and I'm going to change the format some of what I was doing. I'm not going to just stick to cross stitch anymore. I'm not going to try to make videos every month about, I'm not going to make floss tube. I'm not going to call them floss tube because to me floss tube is cross stitch. And if somebody searches on floss tube, that's probably what they're looking for. And I just don't stick with one hobby long enough for that. So this is going to be a monthly vlog. And I may do it twice a month. I just have to see. Of course, my face is starting to itch as I start to talk. Follow allergies. It is the end of October 2025, and I have been busy, even if I haven't been on cross stitch, but I'm going to show you. I don't know what I showed last time. I'm sorry, I didn't go look. So the cross stitch I do have in progress right now is from this book, Home is Where the Heart Is. It's from 1990 by Cooler Design Studios. And I'm doing this big sampler. Okay. And I'm really close to finish. I really am. But I just kind of got stuck. There's some problems with the chart and it started getting frustrating for me. But I'm determined to finish it. So I'm trying to get back to it. But here's where I am. As you can see, I have a lot done. I'm very near the end here. But there are some chart issues. There are two colors of blue right here that I got about halfway done and realized they were charted wrong. They're flipped. They're reversed from what they should be. So I've just left them as it is. But there's some problems with the way the cows were charted. I'm looking at it and I'm like, that is not, it had one of the legs as brown, but in the photo sample, that's not what it shows. Down here, right about here is where the chart breaks from one page to the next. So there's like two or three lines that overlap. On one page it showed green, on another page it showed a different color. So I'm having to look at the photo at times to figure out what color it should be, or just use my best imagination and go, well, that's good enough. This is going to be a jam jar. This is corn or something. This is bread. This is some kind of pot. That's an apple pie. You can't tell it yet. And some more bread. And then the border goes down here. And then also the border, every other square on this row of the border, as you can see, has a little red heart in it. Well, I got a little too happy doing blue squares over here, and now I've got some I've got to rip out because I think somewhere in here, okay, I think that's a heart, but it's like this one, every other one needs to be taken out because it should be this little red heart. So that's on me, but I started at the top. I tend to jump around a lot when I do cross stitch, but I'm trying to not do that because actually it's very satisfying to start at the top, or I guess some people start at the bottom, and just really focus on a certain area. And then I can really see the progress I've made and not jump around. So this blue, like I said, was switch, but down here, those two blues are also used. So I did them the way they should be. One blue is darker than the other. So I am having to really pay attention of, okay, for the symbol for 790, I think it's 792 and 793. The symbol for 792, sometimes I need to use 793 and vice versa. But anyway, I need to do some outlining on the houses. This one still needs its windows put in. And that one needs its door. But this will be the end, the border starts like right here. So I'm trying to work on that. I was working on it today. I said something on Facebook about having so many works in progress, not just cross stitch, but other things, and listed what some of them were. And somebody was like, if you're that close to finishing, just buckle down and do it. So that's the only cross stitch I've been doing really in the last couple of months. I have another sampler I'm working on, but I can't even tell you when it was the last time I did it, so I'm not even going to show it. So I got into a mood to do stuff with yarn, and I do crochet some, and I'm crocheting an Afghan. It's a ripple pattern. It's kind of hard to hold up in front of this model. But about 8 or 9 years ago, I learned how to loom knit, which I meant to bring a loom in here. It's often a circular piece of plastic with the little pegs on it, and you wrap the pegs, and you use a tool. Thought I had my tool in here. You use a pick, something like this. Get my hand the right way. To lift the yarn up and over, and you end up knitting. And a few years ago, a number of years ago, I started knitting on, this is a loom for socks. So it uses much thinner yarn. It uses sock yarn. The hat looms you usually use worsted weight or bulky weight. And I started knitting on a sock. Well, this is not the sock I started years ago. So the book I'm using is Sock Loom Basics, using the KB sock loom. This is not a KB brand sock loom, but it's similar. It's a good book. It has numerous socks in here you can knit, different styles, these type. And so I decided to start doing, so I was looking at the sock I had started and realized I don't have enough yarn for 2 socks. The patterns in here, like this one, calls for 203 yards of fingering weight yarn. You need about 400 yards. And I went online and found reviews that said the same thing. The amount of yarn that they call for here is really only for 1 sock. So you're good if you got 1 sock. I didn't have enough of that yarn to make 2 socks. And I wasn't real sure where I'd left off, and I was really frustrated, so I took it off. And it got quite a bit done. So I started a new one with this. This is something I got probably at thrift store. It's Premier Yarns Deborah Norville collection. The color is paprika. It is a number 1 weight. It has 230 yards, but I happen to have 2 skeins of it, so I should be able to get 2 socks. It is 50% superwash merino wool, 25% bamboo, and 25% nylon. For socks, you want some nylon so that there's a little bit of spring, and otherwise your socks will just kind of puddle around in your shoe. So I finished 1 sock. It has mistakes. It has errors. I will admit there's some problems here around the heel. It does what they call what's called a short row heel. Again, on that part, the book is pretty good, but on the heel part, I was getting really confused. So I did have to go look up some other blogs and videos about how to do the heel. But I got it done, and I got the toe done, and it fits pretty good, and I'm pretty happy. So I do have a sock, and I have started my second sock. Excuse me. My nose wants to itch. I have started my second sock. So I am really happy about this. And like I said, so far I'm using the yarn I had from the first skein. I know I'm going to have to do some color matching when I get to the end here if I don't want an abrupt color change. I'll have to see what's at the end of this and find it on this one. But I can do that. It's not going to be the end of the world. So then, loom knitting, and I got to thinking, I've been saying for a number of years, I don't knit yet. And some different videos I was watching, YouTube throws up different things. And I decided it's time. It's time to learn to knit with needles. So, and I have some needles. I've gotten at thrift stores. I don't know what I was going to do with them, but I have needles and I have lots of scrap yarn. So I picked one of the largest yarns I have, a bulky yarn, and some needles. And don't laugh too much at my first swatch. This is my test. And I just started doing it, and I watched some videos on YouTube. And what else did I watch? Oh, some craftsy videos. I have a service called The Great Courses, and they have some of the craftsy videos. So I watched some of those, and I found it is useful if you watch more than one person because how one person explains it may not completely click. But I did this. I did garter stitch, and then I tried to do, then I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do some purling. So this is knit on one side, purl on the other. You can see there are some errors in here. There are some twisted stitches, some I don't know what is going on there. It took me a bit to figure out which way I'm supposed to be wrapping my yarn. And maybe this is only me, but when they're talking, I don't have 2 empty needles here, but let's pretend these are knitting needles. I'm looking at them like, well, I'll do it that way, like that. Then they're like, go from left to right. And they're talking about going in here through here, or here to here. I don't, or from here, from right to left. And in my mind, I'm seeing this from the top of the needle to the bottom of the needle. So sometimes what they're saying right to left or left to right, my mind's not seeing it that way. And also they would, if somebody says wrap something counterclockwise, well, if I'm looking at something at this end, I can figure out counterclockwise and clockwise. But I'm looking at it from this angle, I get confused. It just, which even counterclockwise and clockwise confuses me. I'm good at spatial relationships, but for some reason those terms confuse me because I have to remind myself, look at the 12 o'clock position. From 12, or not clockwise and counterclockwise, but saying turn it to the right or the left. I have to remember to look at the 12 o'clock when they say turn it to the right or the left. Now, clockwise and counterclockwise I can get, but I have a hard time thinking about it from this angle. So yeah, it had some problems. It kind of grew at points and shrunk back and grew some more. But I did some rib stitch to try to practice switching between knit stitch and purl stitch. And then I took this yarn, which is some Red Heart. I forgot the pattern. I don't have the thing in here with me right now. It's Red Heart Super Saver, and started a scarf. Okay, this sounds simple. And I was just doing the garter stitch, and then I got really bored with that. I was like, no, I really want to practice knit and purl. So I found a pattern that has one row is knit 2, purl 2, and one row is then you knit all the way across, then you turn it again. And it's this. But now I'm bored with it. And partly because of this, it keeps purling. And I think I now know an answer of how to keep that from happening. Like a garter stitch border or a I-cord border. I don't know. But I mean, I was just doing this to practice, but I don't know if this will come out. It's acrylic. I was trying to read up on blocking. I don't know if it helps much on acrylic. If anybody watching this can give me some advice on this, please do so, or it's going to be frogged, and I'll just do something else with the yarn. It's no great loss. It's just, I got to practice. I'm getting better at switching between knit and purl. And identifying my stitches is another thing, is I'm trying to learn to look at the stitch and go, is this a knit stitch or is this a purl stitch here? And counting stitches and rows. But if I can save this, I will. I may take it with me. I have actually 3 different opportunities each week to hang out with other people who knit and crochet. And one is a group of people I've been meeting with for 8 or 9 years. we try to meet once a week in the evening at a restaurant, fast casual restaurant, and knit and crochet. And so maybe some of them can give me some advice. We have a local yarn store that opened a year ago, a little over a year ago, and they encourage people. There's 2 or 3 times during the week. They're like, come out and hang out, and I've been doing that some, and I've really been enjoying it. It's a variety of people, lots of different ages and backgrounds. I say a lot of different ages. I'm the oldest one there. But I enjoy it. And, talking to people in different backgrounds. There are people from other countries. There's people, it's very open, welcoming community and of different experience. Some people crochet, but they don't knit yet. And some people knit, but they don't crochet. Or some people because this yarn store also carries some cross-stitch supplies. So people are willing to help each other and encourage each other. So I could take it there and see if they could help me because I'll probably go there on Sunday for recording this one. But I did. One of the things I want to knit is socks. That's why I'm loom knitting socks. The problem with this is it's not real portable. This thing is a little heavy, and I have to have it at just the right angle and to do the looping with the pick. After working on that sock, I got a lot better at it. By the time I got to the end of the sock, I think this one's going better. So now I see a hole in it. I dropped a stitch. But you have to get this in these little grooves. I don't know if you can see the little groove right here. And it's just not portable because I can't really do it sitting at a table. Pretty much I sit in my recliner and I have it on my lap or on a pillow in my lap. And it's just not portable. It's not something that I can go. Oh, the third place I can go to talk about knit and crochet is the senior center. This is hard to take. At the senior center, everybody sits around tables. I have a hard time doing this at a table. The other places, meeting at a restaurant, I'm sitting at a table. The light's not real good. So this is not portable. And I want something that is portable. I want to be one of those people who has knitting with me. And I do crochet, but I usually crochet larger, like Afghans. I want to have something that I can take to a doctor's appointment, or if I want to just go to the coffee shop and knit or crochet or go to a park. That's one of the things I want to do. Anyway, back to knitting and learning to knit. So I did knit a washcloth. I have crocheted washcloths with cotton yarn before. This is Lily Sugar and Cream. This is probably an old. No, it has. I don't know. It's been around a while. An old label. Made in Canada from 100% USA cotton. At least this one was a few years ago. This was variegated, so I didn't have to do color changes. It did it itself. And I don't remember where I found this pattern. Found it somewhere online, and it has some knits and purls. So that was nice to do, again, to practice both of them. And I've crocheted with the cotton yarn before and did not enjoy it. But I like knitting with it. It just seemed to go so much easier with knitting. Of course, everything keeps changing every time I put this up there and it picks up the color. And this was, garter stitch and then a pattern that was knit and purled. So it looks kind of like a waffle stitch. So I was really happy with that. My first finished knitting object. My first FO for knitting. Yay! So then I found another knitting pattern for a dishcloth. And this one I think is called Grandma's Favorite Dishcloth. I found it on Ravelry, but I think it's also just online. But this one you start in the corner, and so there's increases and decreases. So that was good practice. I had to undo it a few times. I don't know what yarn this is. It's cotton, but I don't think it's Lily and Cream. But learning to do the increases and decreases with this little thing, this little lacy edge. As you start, oh, let's turn it the right way. Start at the top and increase and decrease till you get to the you increase till you get to the center and then you decrease. So with some yarn overs, knit two together, yarn overs up here to increase, and down here with some knit two togethers and yarn overs to get the same effect. I'm pretty happy with that one too. I think it's a good size dishcloth, about 7 inches square, 6.5, 7 inches square. From here to here is about 6.5 inches on me. So I also, but then I found a sock pattern with worsted weight yarn. And I had bought some really inexpensive circular needles, and that's what this called for. And they call this a house sock. And let me see if it's handy of a designer. It is House Sock by Whitney Hayward, Hayward. It was a free pattern. She does a heel flap and a gusset. You can see there's some problems in here. But for my first sock, my first project on circular needles, and like I said, I'm still like only 1 month into knitting, there's some issues where things were joining. Again, I was still trying to get used to there's a way to knit and purl and remember which way to wrap my yarn. And I'm doing continental stitching. I'm used to crocheting, so I'm used to holding my yarn in my left hand, so that seemed to be the best option for me. And yeah, there's some holes here, but they're thick socks, so they're like bedroom slippers, That's why she calls them house slippers. Yeah, see, there's a hole. But you know what? They're for me. The toe looks a little wonky. I'm not going to have these on my feet and put my foot in a shoe. This was supposed to be the Kitchener stitch. I got really confused. I did it numerous times and finally was just like, it's closed. My toes aren't hanging out. I'm good. So I have started on the second one. This yarn is Impeccable from Loops and Threads, which is from the Michael's Craft Store. It's called Pale Gray. And so I've started on the second sock. I think it's going much better. I think looking at it's a 1x1 rib. Yeah, it's got a 1x1 rib. So I'm pretty happy with that. Did I not bring my other sock in here? I meant to bring my other sock I'm looking at. I may have to just pause and go get it. But this is with circulars. I'm sorry, I don't know the brand of my little needle stoppers here. But this is using Magic Loop. And again, I've looked up, I try not to spend too much time looking at videos, but if I get stuck, I go find another video and see if somebody else explains it better. Because a lot of people, and I know I would do the same, you're knitting, they don't tell you every little detail. And it's like the first week, I felt like every finger on both hands was needing to do something different. And I wasn't catching everything on the videos. So one person would explain what to do with these fingers, somebody else would explain what to do here, and somebody else explain more with your right hand. So I encourage you to look for other videos. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with this one. There's a few errors. There's one right there. But again, for my first pair of socks, I'm not displeased. So I'm working on that. And I obviously am going to need to, now the other socks aren't, I'm not going to try to break in here. So then I started working on, I was like, okay, I have some DPNs and I bought a new pair of bamboo ones at the local yarn shop. And they're size 1 because I found a pattern for vanilla, what everybody calls vanilla socks. Used some more sock yarn. I got them cast on and started knitting, and I was struggling. And I'm struggling so much with those socks. And I think it's because the yarn and the needles are so small. So I have a pair of DPNs that are 2.5, US 2.5. So I got those out and cast on for those with fingering weight, sock weight yarn. And I'm doing the ribbing. I'm doing a 1x1 ribbing. Some reason I lose track. I did 2x2, but it's 1x1. It'll be fine. And I've got about an inch of the ribbing done. So I'm pretty happy. It's going a lot smoother. I think I jumped to US 1 DPNs way too quick. Doing this is helping get the idea again of how to do it in a circle, but I also wanted to try the DPNs. So those are on DPNs. I'm using 4 DPNs, 3 for to hold my stitches and 1 to stitch with. I tried the 5 and I was not happy with that. And looking around online, I noticed some people were like, just use 3. But half your stitches, I cast on 64 stitches, but half your stitches on 1 needle, 25% of your stitches on needle 2, and 25% on needle 3. And that seems to be working okay for me. I haven't gone down a deep rabbit hole, but I looked some about why people do 3, keep it on 3 needles or 4 needles and work with a 4th or 5th. And I think these are working. So, so far it's so good. So I'm going to keep going on those. The other thing I wanted to mention about loom knitting is I don't even know what video it was. I was watching some video, and I think it was about loom knitting, and she was showing different swatches she had made for the different stitches. Because on loom knitting, there are different ways you can knit. It's still a knit stitch, but there's different ways. And most of them start out with what's called an E-wrap, and it's a real loose fabric. But anyway, I saw a video, and this person was doing swatches, and I went, I should do that. I'm going to take this. This is, I think it's Red Heart. It's hard to see since my wall is yellow, but you can see that's real loose. So I did these little about 4x4 swatches. I don't even know if they're 4x4, but I did these little swatches of different stitches you can do on the loom to see how they turned out. And this is the E-wrap. And this is what you see a lot. If you buy a kit that has knit a hat, this is probably what you're going to learn. And if anybody's interested, I can do some videos showing you the different stitches. And it's real loose. So I made stitches and then I've labeled them. I've made swatches and I've labeled them. So this way I can remember if it's months or years from now, I can pick this up and go, oh yeah, that's, this one is what's called flat knit stitch. And you can see also just the size and the difference. I did the same number of stitches across, but you see how much smaller this one is. And it looks more like knitting, true knitting. Hopefully you can see that. That looks more like true knitting than this E-wrap. And it's a tighter fabric. And then this one, okay, I did what is called, that was the flat knit. This is called the true knit. It's a little looser than the flat knit, as you can see. But then also down here, and I was doing, I was on a circular loom, but I'm flat knitting. I'm back and forth. And so I was, then I did this row, which looks like it's coming apart. I thought I had it where it wasn't. I have to do something about that. This is the garter stitch on the loom. So it's knit, what they call true knit, and purl back and forth to get garter stitch. Again, I didn't think about the fact that my wall is yellow. I think you can see. But my point of showing you this is make swatches and label them. And the same with my wonky first swatch. I'm going to label this as this is my first knitting. So, I mean, I can already see I've made an improvement, but so I can, if I'm trying to encourage someone else to knit and they go, oh, I could never knit like you, I will, look at this piece of whatever here going on here. But I just stuck with it. And learning how to spot theirs and, I don't know, there's like yarn hanging out here. But this helped me go, oh, okay, if I'm looking at a loom knit pattern and it doesn't tell me what type of stitch to use, I can look at these and determine what is it I'm wanting to do. Do I want something light and lacy? Then this is fine. But if I want something that looks more like needle knitting and a little bit sturdier, maybe I want to use this knit stitch. That it takes a little longer, but it gives you a little bit different fabric. I won't say better, because it depends on what you're using it for. It gives you a different fabric. So I do encourage you to make swatches, and I'm probably going to make some swatches with my needle knitting, and especially when right now I'm only using like 3 standard yarns, and and I'm trying to make myself swatch. I don't swatch much on crochet because mainly what I've crocheted have been scarves and afghans that gauge didn't really matter that much. But on socks and a lot of, if someday want to be able to knit a sweater for myself, a pullover sweater, gauge is going to matter. And and by the way, these socks, they're too big. And I know they're too big. I was in a hurry to start them, and the needles I have, the circular kit I bought offline with these really inexpensive needles, they have a US size 7. The pattern calls for US size 6. I didn't have 6, 7. So I know my socks are a little big, but they'll do. Like I said, I just want to be able to like wear them around the house as the weather's getting cold. If I don't have my shoes on, I could slip these on, and uh, they'll be enough. So, the other thing I did is I live in Georgia. Here in Georgia, we call it the state fair, but that's not its official name. It's called the Georgia National Fair. The big fair where the 4-H kids show up with their animals and they have the rides and the shows and exhibits is held the first week or so of October. It's held in a town called Perry, P-E. It's in the central area of the state. It's in central Georgia, middle Georgia, as we call it. I have not been in decades to the fair. It used to be called the Georgia State Fair, and it was held in Macon. And I don't know when, like 20-something years ago, they started doing the Georgia National Fair, where they built a big fairgrounds. There's still something called the Georgia State Fair in Georgia, and it's held between Macon and Atlanta. But it's just rides in the midway and the games and stuff. It's not the 4-H exhibits. So back when I was a kid, and also when I was cross-stitching in my early 20s, I used to enter things in arts and crafts in the fair. And I won a few ribbons over the years, but life happened, blah, blah, blah. And I hadn't really thought about it. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine, I don't know, probably a year ago, and we both were going, I never liked the games and the rides at the fair. I sort of liked the exhibits. I want to go. And so I live hours apart, but where the fair is like equidistance for us. So I contacted her and said, hey, you want to go to the fair? So we did. We went on a weekday, so it wouldn't be quite so crowded. It was really hot and humid. It was overcast that day, thank goodness. At least we didn't get sunburned. But the humidity and the heat was just killing me. But anyway, we went to the fair and we looked at we got to see some of the animals, not all. The fair goes on for like 10 days, so not all the show animals are there the whole time. So, like, we saw a couple of goats, but there was a lot of no, we didn't get to see goats. I don't anyway, there was a lot we didn't get to see because they come in for a day or two with the cows or the goats or the pigs. But we did go in the petting zoo, and saw some sheep there and other animals, one or two of this and that. So I think there was a llama and an alpaca. Um, so we really enjoyed it. But and there was lots of, in one of the big buildings, exhibit buildings, there was, of course, all the 4-H entries for, kids doing 4-H projects. But in the arts and crafts section, there really wasn't very much. It was a little disappointing. It's like maybe my memory is rusty, which is not surprising since it has been decades since I've been to the fair to look at the exhibits. But I really think there's not many. And I mentioned it to a few people and come find out a lot of people don't know you can enter things in the fair. Where I live is an hour and a half at least from the fairgrounds. So a lot of people in this area, younger people may have never been to that fair. And unless they are involved in 4-H, they don't know that, and they don't know that adults can enter things. People are like, oh yeah, 4-H kids can enter stuff in the fair. Our FFA, which we did get to see a cow in labor. We didn't stick around for the whole birth. It was taking a while. But people don't realize that adults, you can enter things in the fair. So that has me on a mission. I want to encourage everyone to look for your state fair. Maybe your local county fair has exhibits. Where I live, the county fair doesn't. It's just the state. I keep saying the state fair, the Georgia National Fair. They have a website. You can go out there and see what the different entries are. Now, they have, under arts and crafts, they have fiber crafts. So they have categories for crochet, for knitting, cross stitch, sewing. They also have lots of other, woodworking, metalworking, jewelry making, doll making. It's just lots of categories. Photography had a lot of entries. They show that, and we went through the photography part. It was lots of entries because everybody can take a picture now. Everybody can get photos. Everybody's taking photos all the time. Some cute photos. There were some nice photos. And then they have arts and crafts painting, but now they also, this was new to me, they have a different category for fine arts, which would be paintings, hopefully like what you see behind me. Now that has a different entry process in that you have to submit a picture of your painting and then they will jury it in. You may or may not be accepted. And they have quilting is another category. There were a lot of quilts. Because a lot of quilt guilds are in the state, and they encourage people to enter quilts. And the quilt stores because I know some of the quilt stores up near me that are a couple of hours from the fairgrounds, they will take your entry for you and take it to the fairgrounds because you have to take your entries there, or I think you can mail them, but that's going to be expensive and you don't want to risk things getting lost. And then after the fair's over, you've got to go retrieve your items. So a lot of the quilt stores I say a lot, there's not that many quilt stores in the state anymore, but like quilt stores or guilds or other organizations, somebody will say, okay, everybody bring me your items with your paperwork filled out and I'll take it to Perry because they do allow that. So anyway, back to all the entries and exhibits. So I came home and got to looking at, I really should enter something. Why am I not entering things? There was very little cross stitch. There wasn't a lot of crochet. There was some crochet afghans. And the way they had it the way they had it displayed was it's not like it was like, oh, here's all the cross stitch and here's all the crochet. It was all mixed together. All the arts and crafts. So, and there's no fee to enter except for fine arts. That's a fee. There's a $10 fee per entry. But arts and crafts things, there's no fee. And the prizes are not huge. My fair, they get the Georgia Fair, they give a first, second, third place ribbon. And they also make it clear in the rules, though, if you could be the only one in a category, but if your item is not deemed worthy, they won't give you a ribbon. So they're grading it. They kind of have a grading scale of, how well it did. So they're not just handing out ribbons because you're the only one who entered this. I know watching Cross Stitch the Globe, Allison and Stephanie, I don't know if Allison entered this year, but Stephanie entered a lot of cross stitch. And now I can't, Oklahoma or Kansas, whichever state they're in, it said they gave out like 10 ribbons per category. In Georgia, that's not so. So it depends on your fair. You need to check your websites for your fair. Like I said, maybe you have a county fair who does this, or your state fair. Check now, because I know in other parts of the country, here in Georgia, like I said, the fair's in October. But I know it states up north, the fairs start in I want to say August, September. They're a lot earlier. And so you need to know, because you're going to have to drop your items off a couple weeks before the fair starts. Even though the Georgia Fair is in October, they start taking drop-offs in September, because it'll be like the first weekend, we're taking these type of crafts. The second weekend, we're taking this type of craft. So I went online and, because I'm a geek, I printed off the rules so I could read them easier. No entry fee is required in most departments, but it gives you all the rules. It spells it out. Yeah, here, even though the fair was the first week of it started on October 2nd, a lot of the entries were due on September 6th. So, got to plan ahead. But there's leather craft, needle arts, photography, sewing, wood carving, decorative painting, quilts, spinning and weaving, wood turning, youth art. There's also antiques. You can just enter your antique. So I may do that next year. I have a few. For their purposes, they say anything over 50 years old can be considered an antique. They specifically state, we know antiques are officially 100 years or older, but for purposes. And so they had a display of household items, farm items, farm tools, sewing machines. So I have some antique sewing. I have some sewing machines that are over 50 years old. I have a quilt that's over 50 years old. So I may enter some of those. Again, the ribbons, with the ribbon, you get a cash prize. I think the top cash prize is $15. So you're not going to get rich off this, but it's fun. It's fun to enter it, to see. I don't know if they give you the results of the judging or not. It doesn't say. I think that varies by fair as well. But and there are some things like there's guidelines, like you can enter. Okay, it has to have been completed in the past 5 years, except where specifically stated. Then some entries require titles. So, like if you have a painting, it requires a title. You have to know how to have it framed. Must have sturdy wire and hangers, no sawtooth hangers. So if you have a framed cross stitch piece, it needs a wire hanger, not the sawtooth type. It tells you how many you can enter. And in Georgia, if you're thinking, well, I just started doing this craft and I'll never win anything, they have different skill level divisions. So, and this is obviously based on your honesty. Novice is intended for those new to the art and at the very basic beginner level. Intermediate is the average skill, which is where most exhibitors will be. And then open division is for the more advanced exhibitor whose projects demonstrate more complexity of design. Professionals have to enter in the open division. I don't know if it describes what makes you a professional, but obviously if you're selling your things or you're teaching classes in it and you consider, you've got a website, you probably should enter at the professional level. Once you accumulate, and they keep up with who wins from year to year. Once you accumulate 12 blue ribbons or 2 best in category awards within a department, you'll be required to move up to the new one. So you can't stay in the novice forever. That if you win a bunch of blue ribbons in the novice, they're going to make you move up. If in the intermediate, you are racking up the ribbons every year, they're going to go, you're advanced, move up. For needle arts, actually, first place gets $25. Second place gets $20. Third place gets $15. And there's, best in category. Also, they have a different category for youth. So the teenagers and children have fair competition. They're not competing with adults. Depending on it's like there's a division, which is your skill level. Then there's I just said it, and categories, which needle arts is a category, and then under that there are classes. Okay, so there's categories and there's classes. So just give you some idea. So like under knitting, there's different types of knitting. What have you knitted? Afghan, baby layette, dolls, blah, blah, blah. For head, hands, and feet, which may include match sets, so a scarf and a hat. Like if you did a hat and matching gloves or scarf, you could do that. That's a set. That's one entry. So you can only enter like 2, or like cross stitch, there's animals. There's flowers or fruit, inspirational text, which includes samplers, people, seasonal holiday, and other. So most of them have, like I said, Afghans, baby, cape, sweaters, and shawls, dolls and toys for head, hands, and feet, and then other. So and there's crochet with thread, crochet with yarn, there's knitting, there's other needle arts, which is things like hand embroidery, needlepoint, smocking, and then other needle arts. So I have tatted in the past. So if I wanted to do something with tatting, I could still enter, even though there's not a tatting category. And you can enter up to 2 entries in each class. So you can enter dozens of things if you wanted. There's quilts, there's upcycled textiles, there's wearing apparel, adult and children. Created crafts include ceramics that must be fired. There's not a category for purchased ceramics that have been decorated. There's a whole set of categories for Christmas ornaments. It's like Christmas ornaments, but then under that is ceramic or clay, decorative painting, fabric. There's basketry, beadwork, hair ornaments, jewelry, paper crafts, pottery. It just goes on and on. And often there's like a grand prize of, at least in some groups, like the sewing and under quilting, the best of show gets $250, but from one of the local quilt shops. The exhibitor with the most blue ribbons in quilt divisions gets a sewing machine. So there's a lot to enter. So I'm thinking now, I'm trying to plan now as it has been made in the last 5 years. So what have I made in the last 5 years that I think is worthy of entering? Or what do I want to make? Is there something I want to make and enter? If I start planning it now, I have a better chance instead of waiting to the last minute and going, oh, yeah, what did I do with that? Do I want to enter that? Do I need to get that framed? So yeah, I have some cross stitch, the sampler I showed you earlier. I may enter it. Yeah, antiques. There's like furniture, early childhood influences, military relics, and it's very interesting to look at. It wasn't a huge exhibit, but it was neat to look at some of the things. There were a few things that were kind of my friend and I both looked at and went, "But I remember those. They're antiques." Um, so I want to encourage everyone, look up information about your state fair or your county fair and keep your eyes open for those type things. I think it's important that we support those and we enter those because you never know and maybe this is just me and my craziness. Maybe somebody walks through and goes, I would love to learn how to do that craft. These items are beautiful. I want to learn how to do that. And to show that people are still doing these crafts. So many people are like, nobody sews anymore, nobody knits, nobody crochets. It's like, yes, we do. Of course, at the fair, they're not going to know who did it. I mean, your name's in there, but they don't know you. They're not going to know how old you are. And like I said, I've been going to the local yarn store over the past month a few times to hang out, and there's people early 20s, and they're crocheting and knitting and cross stitching. And when I mention this to other people my age and older, they're like, really? I didn't think young people don't do that. And I'm like, no, they do. And let's make it cool and let's encourage people to do this no matter what your age. And also, you can learn a new craft. I'm 62. I'm teaching myself to knit because I want to learn how to knit and because I want to keep learning. So that's one of my other soapboxes of I retired about a year ago. And one of my things that's been going through my head for the past few weeks at the 1 year anniversary, because feel like I'm still decompressing from decades of work, is who do I want to be? Who do I want to be in my retirement years? Who do I want to be as I age? Um, we all know some people, and it may not have anything to do with their age. They have no hobbies, they have no interests. They just kind of go, I don't know. I can't learn something new. And that's not who I want to be. I want to be the person that has interest because that's who I am. First of all, that's who I've always been. But I want to be someone who's learning. And if you've never watched me before, these paintings back here are some I have done for I had some depression and anxiety this year that's got me off track. I haven't painted in a long time. I was sketching every day. I haven't. I want to get back to that. And I do it for me. I don't do it to sell. It'd be great if somebody bought one of my paintings, but I haven't found that outlet yet. I haven't pursued it a lot. I want to do it. I know there's psychological benefits. Not working gives me the advantage of I have more time and energy to go to group activities, meet different people. Um, I'm doing that. The senior center is a great place to do it, but also meeting with other groups of varied ages and backgrounds, I think is very beneficial to me. I think it's beneficial to that I can learn what they're interested in. They're not doing my crafts. They're not doing grandma's crafts. They're cross stitching Pokemon for themselves. They're making costumes for Comic Con or other. They're cross stitching or crocheting a character from an anime film, and I love that. And I like hearing what younger people have to say and their experiences. And I hope that I'm encouraging them to keep up with their creative side as life gets insane. When they get married, if they have kids, as their career, some of them have careers already, but I hope they don't lose that because there are times in my life where I lost that. So try to encourage other people to do crafts. The same with the fair. Try to encourage people to enter the fair. It's not so much about competition. It's just, especially if you're one of those people who kind of needs deadlines and guidelines, this is a good way to do it. To go, okay, I'm going to enter 5 things in the fair next year. Okay, that gives you a list, that gives you goals. if that helped you, that's one way to do it, to keep you going. Um, of course, YouTube videos, I've gotten a lot of inspiration from a lot of different channels. Some I don't watch on a regular basis, others I do, but it's, even if I'm not doing the item they are doing, it's interesting to hear that. There's some of the ones I watch, people sometimes talk about the psychological benefits of their craft, uh, that especially at this point in time in the US, there's a lot of turmoil, there's a lot of things going on, and it gives you some comfort, if and teaching others how to do that can also give you comfort, or perhaps if you enjoy teaching, but sharing the excitement. I love to see when someone else is making something or learning something new, and we've got to keep our minds sharp. We've got to keep um, psychological well-being in mind, and I think it helps give us a balance. So now that I've stood on that soapbox for a while, I think that's all I have to share today. If you enjoyed this, please give me a like and a thumbs up, and also subscribe. Uh, I can't. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to do twice a month. I'm going to aim for twice a month. So hopefully, in about 2 weeks, I'll have something new. At least give you a much shorter video than this hour-long one of where I am in knitting and cross stitch, and maybe I'm doing some sketching by then. Um, and I just want to share things I'm doing. Please leave comments below. What are you working on? What crafts do you do? Are there crafts you want to learn? Uh, I also do sewing and quilting. Um, you know, how do you view crafts? Have you ever entered anything into a state fair or some other competition, but particularly the state fair? That one just kind of tugs at my heart because I entered things when I was a child. It's low entry, low barrier to entry for most people, especially if you live near the fairgrounds. Um, and so I'd love to know, have you ever entered anything into a fair, and whether you won ribbons or not, did you do that? So, hopefully I will see everyone in a couple of weeks. Thanks a lot. Bye.